Insight from the reporters and editors who bring you America's most trusted business magazine, plus global business, finance, and tech news as it happens. Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Tim Stenevec on Bloomberg Radio.
To Bloomberg Business Week here on Bloomberg Radio. We are getting to some of the big conversations that we are having at the UN General Assembly and Climate Week this week as well. A lot of big corporate names keen to show off their commitment to sustainability, to development issues. But how effective are these initiatives? How committed are these companies to these projects as well? These are some of the things we want to get into with Tara Nathan, who's joining us, founder and executive vice president of the MasterCard Community Pass, a digital platform that aims to boost access to payments for remote communities. Tara, great to have you with us. Now, during last year's Climate Week, you spoke to us here on the program about MasterCard's role in delivering services in Africa and in South Asia through the Community Pass program. Can you talk us a bit through what's happened over the past year for you? What's changed? How have you evolved and moved on?
Sure. Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here. What's evolved? I think with Community Pass, quite frankly, I think we talked about what it does, right? Community Pass is all about, it's a digital infrastructure that tries to digitize access for smallholder farmers, the poorest, most rural inhabitants living in remote villages in Africa and India. It gives them access to things like marketplaces to buy quality inputs, to buy quality fertilizers, to be able to sell their produce for fair market rates and to earn their fair share. And over the past, since last year, I'd say we've scaled to 6 million users. And so that's really exciting. We're live in 6 markets around the globe. So I think we're not just building solutions now, we're really delivering them and delivering value and impact for the people who use our solutions.
Tara, tell us about that impact. Like, what is it that you guys see on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as this program, this continues its build out?
Yeah. The impact is the really cool story, right? So I'll take you back a little bit. When you talk about a farmer, it's something that we living in New York City may not even understand. When you're talking about a smallholder farmer who earns maybe $2 to $5 a day, one of their key challenges is just getting they're a small business owner, right? That's really what they are. But their input is a seed. That seed might cost them $50, okay, to plant. And what we find is that a lot of these farmers can't access authentic seeds. So they're getting artificial fake seeds. So they plant them. 6 months later, they find out there's no crop, right? Imagine what that does to them. So in markets, we've actually connected them to authentic certified seed providers, and we've seen their yields go up by 30 to 50%. Now, add on top of that, we've connected them to a multiplicity of buyers, as opposed to what they may have previously had, which is, they would be stuck by a middleman or a trader who came to their farm gate, and they were price takers. Now, because we've connected them to a multiple of buyers, now that increased offtake commands a higher price of 20 to 30%. So those are the types of impacts that we're seeing on the ground.
Factor in the climate resilience element to this as well, because this is, handing that sort of power to growers, for example, helps that, when they are suffering from changing climate, changing temperatures, perhaps changing the crops that they're being able to grow as well. I mean, factor in how those goals are feeding into what you're doing with those communities.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about productivity, right? I think one of the biggest drivers, obviously, of climate change is agriculture. So that's really what we're helping to make more efficacious. If you plant the right seed in the right environment, the offtake improves, and that sort of has a big driver on sort of climate. I think the other thing that I'm really interested in is the connection between the smallholder farmer and the carbon market. So we're starting to see a lot of really cool technologies come out where they can actually start to measure soil health. And how can we then drive that value as an incremental income source down to the smallholder farmer? And how can that now become an income generator for that poor farmer who's earning the $2 a day?
Tell me, I am curious too about what's the end game, long game for MasterCard in doing this. It certainly we often talk about the lack of financial identity that so many individuals have in the emerging markets. But MasterCard getting involved, it obviously gets these people into the financial system, right? But I'm curious what the long game is for you guys to have this involvement in connecting these people.
Yeah. Look, MasterCard, we've had a long commitment to doing well by doing good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in our fundamental DNA. We've made a commitment to connect 1 billion people to the formal digital economy. So I could tell you that in the first instance, this is absolutely part of that strategy to say, we want to be making the world a better place. But when you really look at our long-term strategy, these are markets of the future that we want to operate in. And this kind of digital technology makes us relevant to a majority of the population. If you look across the continent of Africa, right, north of 50% of the population is involved in agriculture. Somewhere between 30 to 40%, depending on the country, of their GDP comes from agriculture. When you look at population growth, right, the majority of population growth and of the new consumers in the next 30 years will happen in Africa and in these developing economies. So this just makes smart business sense for us as well.
Tara, you've been here, at Climate Week talking about how these issues are of importance to companies as well. What's your reading on where other companies in your space, the broader industry, is on, working towards sustainable goals, sustainable development at a time when we've seen so much pushback on things around ESG?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the real pivot that I'm hearing more and more of, I want to hear even more about it, is commercial sustainability. So when I look to the community pass business, one of the we call ourselves, we are a social impact enterprise. So there's a dual mandate there. It's not just social impact, but it's an enterprise and commercial sustainability. And I think I've started to hear that narrative build a lot more, right? So it's, how do you encourage companies, and how do you encourage, frankly, the development sector to be more amenable to companies looking at this as a commercial enterprise? I mean, one of the things that we always talk about here is, who delivers the service when the grant runs out? It's all great and fine to be talking about these big donor commitments to things, but you need a private sector entity in there with a commercial model, who's delivering the service day after day. And I think, that's the shift that I'm starting to see and I want to see more of.
If there's one thing you could change to just improve and help what you are doing, what would it be?
I guess it would be that mindset, right? Well, a couple things. One would be that mindset of us all thinking commercially, number one, and number two, thinking in terms of collective action. So if I think about what we're doing, I mean, we recently, 5 months ago, we launched the MADE Alliance, the
Right.
Mobilizing Access to the Digital Economy in Africa Alliance. And I think one of the really interesting and cool things about what that is it's about action. So it's not a coalition that comes up and puts up a bunch of logos and just declares a bunch of commitments. It's
Right.
really committing to collective action. And what we've done is crowd in the actors, such as the African Development Bank, who has committed $300 million to
Right.
finance this. We've got Equity Bank, who's going to be giving loans and bank accounts to the individuals. It's Community Pass and the MasterCard technology that's going to connect all these ecosystem partners.
Right.
We're crowding in all these private sector actors to work in concert.
Yeah, that makes sense. It kind of mirrors some of what we heard from the president of the African Development Bank a little bit earlier here on Bloomberg Business Week. Tara, thank you so much. Great to check in with you again. Tara Nathan, Executive VP, founder of MasterCard's Community Pass, joining us right here from New York City. We're watching shares of Costco right now down about 1% here in the aftermarket. Fourth quarter EPS